Welcome back to another episode of the Hermit Poetry Series. I'm Neil Aitken, and on this channel I read poetry, mostly work by contemporary poets, occasionally poems of my own, and once in a while, poems from the past. Today's poem is actually one of mine. This comes from The Lost Country of Sight, which was published in 2008 by Anhinga Press, and was the 2007 Philip Levine Prize winner. This is, to this day, this is still one of my, I only have two books, but I really love the poems in this book. It's a book that kept shifting and evolving over time. It began sort of as a meditation on home, exile, and return, and sort of the 20th and 21st century experience of being displaced, of being constantly on the move. I grew up, although I was born in Vancouver, British Columbia, our family moved around a lot. By the time I was 5, I'd already been around the world once, living on 3 different continents. And so, it's the idea of having a physical location to call home was strange to me. And instead, what often happened was we configured home around the particular people that we had with us. Which is, I think, at once sort of a lovely thing to do, and at the same time one fraught with the sense of loss, because, we're not immortal, and so things change over time. I've been thinking a lot too about so over this past month, in October. It's also my father's birth month, and so he would have been 73. In October, and it's been 14 years since he passed away from ALS, from Lou Gehrig's disease. And so I was thinking about what I'd written about that experience as well in my book, and so the book was written, actually finished the manuscript the year that he was dying and passed away. And so the book evolved into something of an elegy for my father, even though that was not the original intent. 2 things you need to know about this particular poem. The first is that sort of location-wise, it takes place, the context is really a trip that my mother and I took after my father's passing. We drove from British Columbia, where they had relocated earlier the previous year, and drove back to Saskatchewan, which is a long trip and cross country in the summertime, and sort of it's in the context of driving through the prairies and looking out at the landscape and thinking about what had stayed the same for all those years and what had changed. The other thing, so part of the changes my mother notes almost in passing, is without much thought, she just commented on about the fact that all the wooden grain elevators that had existed on the landscape were gone, and that they'd all been largely replaced with these cement and steel silos. And so this iconic picture of Saskatchewan, which I had held in my mind for years of being away, was already sort of not true. Things had changed. And so there was also a loss there. And then the other thing that I thought a lot about during that trip was that my father and I had identical voices, that we were indistinguishable on the phone. People couldn't tell us apart. And after his passing, I became the only one in the world with with our voice. And that stuck with me and kind of inspired this particular poem. So this is Traveling Through the Prairies, I Think of My Father's Voice. How we must have seemed like twins over the phone, my father speaking with my voice, I speaking with his, some strange accident of genetics or the unchecked influence of mockingbirds and mimeographs. I have heard 2 trains sound almost alike till they passed, like the one last night, bending westward, the other slowing to a halt, the earth shuddering in the dark between, while the stars held their place overhead, 1,000 points of tin and fire. Had it been day, I might have seen to the far faded edge of nowhere, or whatever town lies wakeless there. Here the wind sounds the same, blown from any direction, full of dust, pollen, the deep toll of church bells rung for mass, weddings, deaths. Coming through on the straight road, the land seems especially bare this year, although the fields are still green with new stalks of wheat, rye, canola. Someone has been taking down the grain elevators, one by one, striking their weathered wooden frames from the skyline, leaving only small metal bins. The way the disease took him by degrees, the body jettisoning what it could, his arms and legs, his grin, his laugh, his voice. In the end, only his eyes, their steel doors opening and closing while the storm rattled within, and his breath, the body's voice, repeating the only name it knew, sigh after sigh, a lullaby sung to a restless child on a heaving deck, a hush we only learn in the quiet dark long after the boat has gone and the waves have ceased. So that was Traveling Through the Prairies, I think, of my father's voice, from The Lost Country of Sight. And here's to all of you out there who are caregivers, or who have lost someone to ALS, to Lou Gehrig's disease, or to any other illness. Thinking of you at this time. I'm grateful for the power of poetry to put into words, to construct a space, an emotional space where we can be together, even though we are separated by distance and time. That these videos are a way of bridging that gap. And I'm grateful for the work that you do out there in the world, as writers, as readers, as those who imagine and create. Whatever it is that you choose to manifest that creative energy into, keep doing it. It's worth it. If your audience is one, it's you, or your audience is many, it's still the same, that we have the power to transform life, and our understanding of it, word by word, line by line, stanza by stanza. Something comes into play. If you like these videos, please consider liking this video with a thumbs up and subscribe to the channel. There's new content every Tuesday, Thursday, and Sunday. And as we near our 100 video mark, I'm trying to decide what I'll do for the 100th video, and also trying to decide what might add or change as we roll forward into the next 100 videos. I plan on to continue to read poetry and talk about poems, but I am also considering perhaps adding other types of content, whether it's brief discussions about craft, or maybe a look at something else that ties into the world of literature, language. I'm grateful for all of you who stick around and watch these videos, and hope that that you find joy and delight in them, or at least inspiration to do something else. I'm Neil Aitken. This is the Hermit Poetry Series, and I'll be back again soon. Take care, be safe, and be active in whatever you're engaged with, and we'll see each other again.